right. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for taking some time out of your busy schedules to join us for today's Academic Writer webinar. Academic Writer is APA's teaching and learning resource for helping students in all disciplines master APA style. Today's webinar will focus on how to avoid correcting APA style writing mistakes. So with that, I'd love to introduce today's presenters. First, we have Emily Shoddick, who is a training and support specialist at APA, helping instructors who are using Academic Writer get set up and started. Emily is a former MLS librarian and was also previously a regional librarian at a nursing college. She has experience teaching information literacy and APA style. She loves theater, movies, audiobooks, and coffee, which is all too relatable. I'd also like to welcome on Dr. Roxanne Sullivan, who is a professor and program director of psychology and women's studies at Bellevue University in Nebraska. Roxanne has over 30 years of experience in teaching research methods and experimental psychology, and she has a teaching experience in both face-to-face and online. We also have some Academic Writer experts in the chat as well for questions and comments, so feel free to use that feature and we'll get you set up with someone. So now I'd like to go over the agenda for today's webinar, which consists of a quick overview of Academic Writer, including the ease of LMS integration, a variety of training for first-time users, custom training, in-product and student orientations. We'll then dive into our conversation with Emily and Roxanne that will touch upon her experience with Academic Writer, including her favorite features, tips, plans for 2023. And lastly, of course, we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. Today's webinar is being recorded, so keep an eye out for an email linking to the recording, with some additional resources that should come out later this week. And with that, I'd like to pass it over to Emily.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan. I am going to switch over and we're going to jump right into the platform so we can all get to what everyone I know is here for, to see Academic Writer. What is it? What can it do for you to help you as an instructor? So I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen. Give me just a moment to switch over. Okay. Keep losing my controls here. Here we go. Sorry about that. Like my computer is frozen all of a sudden. Just a second. Okay. There we go. Okay. Hopefully now everyone is seeing the homepage of Academic Writer. Do let me know if you're not seeing that. I'm seeing some thumbs up. Cool. Awesome. Okay. So welcome today. I'm so excited that we have such a good size group. I even keep seeing the participants number keep going up, so that's really exciting. And everyone is joining us from all over, so welcome. And really, I just am excited that you decided to join us today, and hopefully you'll learn about something new. So we're talking all about Academic Writer and focusing on you as the instructor and how Academic Writer can add value to your teaching process and to your classes. So just a quick rundown on Academic Writer. It's built up of the Learning Center, the Reference Center, and the Writing Center. So how this is going to go today, I'm just going to go through each center and do a demo to show some of my favorite features, kind of get in the perspective of an instructor and show you some tools that can be really helpful, so that you don't have to spend so much time focusing on teaching. Of course, you will be teaching APA style, but not actually developing the learning materials yourself. So hopefully, if anyone's ever taken hours to develop guidelines, outlines, writing resources, APA style resources for your class, APA or Academic Writer kind of takes that off your plate so that it's all in one place and your students have access to these resources, so you don't have to take time to develop them on your own, and you can really focus on your discipline and the content of students' papers and the research quality. So I'm going to start off. First, I just want to mention that we also have support available for anyone using Academic Writer. We have an entire knowledge base. If you go up to the welcome menu and our site help page, there is a team of supporters ready to help you out. So first off, there is some self-support resources here. So frequently asked questions, these are all always available to you. Academic Writer is totally cloud-based, so you can access it anywhere that you have internet access, as well as this help here. But then if you don't find an answer to your question, you can come over here and contact our support team. This just opens up a form and it creates an email that comes directly to our team. So you always have that support available. And then in addition, tools in the Learning Center also integrate with your LMS. So whether it's Canvas or Blackboard, you can actually assign out content so that it seamlessly integrates with that LMS. It syncs with your gradebook. So the content is there developed and ready for students to use. And then it also integrates with your class, your online class, and your gradebook. So just know that that support is there. And we also have a team of support ready to help you if you decide to use this in your class and integrate with your LMS. We'll be there to walk you through the process. Okay, so let's go into the Learning Center. I'm just going to quickly overview the Learning Center, and then I want to get into Dr. Sullivan after this so that we can get her firsthand perspective and her feedback, because she has used Academic Writer in her courses. So let's take a look here at the Learning Center. I also think from the instructor perspective, you can think of this as your teaching center, kind of. Learning for the students, teaching for you, because this is where you have the, these resources, these teaching resources developed, built, ready for you to use and assign out to students through your LMS. So here in the Learning Center, we have our quick guides. These are shorter lessons to help you learn about APA style guidelines. These take about 15 to 20 minutes to complete. Then we also have our tutorials. These are a bit longer. They go into more depth, but covering more broad topics on research and writing and even publishing. These are a bit longer. Like I said, they're probably about 30 to 40 minutes to complete, but we know all students can work at their own pace. So that's just kind of an estimation. And then also in the Learning Center, we have many samples here, kind of a library of samples available for students to refer to. So papers, references, tables, figures, everything's, of course, very critically reviewed by our APA style experts. So you know that you are getting the best APA style content that is out there. First, I'm just going to jump into the quick guide and show you some of the topics that are covered here. So first, when I click in, you can see across the Learning Center tabs, those numbers show you how many items are in each category. There's quite a few. These will be growing as Academic Writer grows, and we are, adding more content. We currently just recently added a few new quick guides and tutorials. So just remember that we do add content to this continuously. So there's 73 already of these quick guides in here. And just to give you an idea of some of the topics covered, citing sources, these fundamental writing skills, which are newer additions. And then we have manuscript sections, paper format and organization, reference lists, tables and figures. So broad scope of topics covered here in the quick guides. But remember, these quick guides are more focused on APA style guidelines and skills. So I like to go through and just point out a couple of my favorites, and then I'm sure Dr. Sullivan will share some of her favorites as well. But I'm going to go into this paper format and organization. And just like to point out a few. So the basic paper setup is an excellent starting off point for students who might be very brand new to APA style, or they haven't written an academic paper in quite a while and need a refresher on APA style. So that's a great kickoff point. There's also heading levels, so how to format your heading levels in APA style, how to format and use a running head, and a title page. So this gives you kind of a taste of some of the topics that are covered. These stars over here allow you to add things to your favorites collection so that you can quickly refer back to them, just kind of save them in your own little mini library there if you like. But like I said, of course, you can assign out each one of these individual lessons. It works in your LMS, your learning management system, whether it's Canvas, Blackboard, or a different one. And like I mentioned, we would be able to walk you through the process of setting that up. But let me just click into one quickly and show you how this looks. So when you first click into it, you'll see an outline of the content that is covered. There's also mini quizzes. So these knowledge checks, they're included in all of the quick guides and tutorials. In the quick guides, they'll show up at the end, and the tutorials, they're kind of dispersed throughout so that it kind of chunks up the content. And yeah, so you'll have those knowledge checks available. And then if you just click Start Learning, then you're in the full lesson here for the basic paper setup. So students will work at their own pace. Some of the content is interactive, formatted differently. So they will scroll through, and as they scroll through and read and absorb the content and hit continue at the bottom, then you'll notice over here on the left side, it check marks the sections that they have completed, and then you can see the percentage complete up here in the top left. And like I said, these are assignable, also syncs with your gradebook so that you can see that students completed them as assignments. Okay, and then so that's just an example real quick of our quick guides. I'm going to jump over to our tutorials just to give you a sample of the topics that are covered in here. And remember, these are a bit longer and covering broader topics. One that I always point out is this basics of APA style, really excellent kind of in-depth overview of the foundations of APA style. So if I was an instructor and I had students starting out with APA style, maybe it's very brand new to them, this would be an excellent thing to assign out to give them that good start digging into APA style guidelines. Other topics covered, we have how to avoid plagiarism and self-plagiarism, I think is a big one. Some students might not even be aware that they could be self-plagiarizing, so it's really important to learn that that can happen. How to find reliable sources, of course, extremely important these days, making sure that our research is very credible. And this also shows you that not all of the topics here are just focused on academic writing itself. There's also a lot of resources on the research process as well. Okay, so that kind of gives you just a glimpse at some of the many topics that are covered here in the Learning Center. Like I mentioned, there's also all of these samples. We have sample papers that include student samples, sample references, tables, figures. And for the sake of time, I can't really go into everything because there is so much. So with that, I do want to pause and then finally get Dr. Sullivan's input. So if you're there, Dr. Sullivan, I do have a question for you because I want to get your feedback because I know that you have used content from the Learning Center. So I was wondering if you could share just some specific quick guides and tutorials that you have used in your classes and just kind of talk about how they've helped your teaching process.
Okay, welcome everyone. It is great to see so many people here from so many different places. As I was listening to Emily, it's like, yes, I used that tutorial, that tutorial, that tutorial. So many of the tutorials that Emily has already pointed out, I use in my class. Academic Writer right now is used in 2 classes that I teach, which is our research sequence, which is Introduction to Research Methods and Experimental Psychology. And in Intro to Research Methods, I select 6 of the tutorials for which students do get points for taking the quizzes. And it's easily integrated into a grade book. We use Blackboard at Bellevue. I use the getting, the basics of APA style, the basic setup, finding reliable sources, plagiarism, reducing bias, and then what a lot of students do really appreciate is elements of a reference and how to put references together. I work on, we have a lab section, and our lab section in research methods is a writing lab. So I take these tutorials, they're supposed to do them before the lab, and then I kind of demonstrate some of the things, especially at the beginning in terms of getting started using APA style. And they are integrated using Academic Writer is used for every single writing assignment they have, both in the first class and in experimental psych. And by the time they get to experimental psych, all I have to tell them if they have a question is go to this quick guide or go to this tutorial to refresh your memory about this. And given I just finished grading their final empirical manuscripts over the weekend, I was very pleased that they had improved over the 2 terms with their ability to produce an APA manuscript that is very close. And I had one student who actually had perfect on, which is unusual, but they usually improve, and they like going through these because it gives them an idea of what they're supposed to be doing.
Awesome. That is so great to hear. Thank you so much for sharing how you've used that and some of your favorite quick guides and tutorials. It's always really just great to hear how instructors are using these materials within their class and also seeing success with their students' work. So thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so with that, I'm going to keep moving along and we're going to dive into the reference center here, which I know is exciting for a lot of people. This is kind of like my favorite center. I just wish so much when I was a student that I had access to a tool like this, especially with creating APA style references from scratch and just learning about everything that makes up an APA style reference. So here in the Reference Center, what's really excellent is that you can build up your own reference library, your My References. And then once you have references built up in your collection of references here in Academic Writer, then you can use those references on any paper that you create in the Writing Center, which we'll get to in just a bit. So once you add them here to your Academic Writer account, then you can use them across any paper that you create. And it makes it really simple for you to add references to papers and work that way. So let me first jump into my references. This is your reference library. So all of the references that I have added into my account show up here in this long list of references. There are some tools here to help you organize things, since I'm sure, especially if you're working on a dissertation or a very long research paper, you'll have quite a lot of references that you will be working with. So we do have some tools to help you organize. My favorite here are these reference tags that you can add to each reference. So if you add a tag, say psychology or meditation, it will link together all of the references that you add that tag to. So if I click one of those reference tags, it's going to pull up a list of all of those references that have been linked with that tag. So this really helps us keep things organized. We don't use folders like some reference managers you might see out there. And that's really to avoid having duplicates of the same reference throughout your My References collection, which of course you can imagine could get really complicated or confusing if you have duplicates of the same reference and you make an edit to one and you can't remember which one it was. So instead we decided that the tag system really helps avoid that problem. And also you can see associated papers, so exactly which papers this specific reference has been used on so far. These are just some demo papers that I've created. But you can see exactly which ones, and you can also click in directly to those papers. If you need to make an edit to the reference, you can click this little pencil icon, and that's going to actually open up a form, which you'll see in just a moment when I go through how we create new references. But this is going to link to a form, which every reference is attached to in the background, where you can make edits to the reference. So if it's punctuation or capitalization, whatever, you can make edits to it. But that's our My References collection. You can change how they're sorted also. So if you needed to see references that say you added recently or by year, by title, you can change how they're sorted. And they're also searchable up here in the top right. So you can search by a keyword, by an author name, by part of the title. So those are all things to help you keep things organized and find what you're looking for. But I also want to show you how you actually add references to your account. So I just went back to the main reference center, and I'm going to click Add References. So from here, you have 3 options to get those references in your account. You have the Create, the Import, and the Search. So the Create option, kind of my personal favorite because I see it as the best learning opportunity for the student. Since each of these different types of resources have an associated form that students will complete, and they actually go through each portion of the reference. Since we know references, the format will change a bit depending on the type of source that you're working with, but they will walk through each part of the reference and complete it from scratch, but with help and guidance. So their first job is to first decide what type of resource they need to create a reference for, which can sometimes be, a little more challenging than you might think for students. It's just, there's so many different types of sources out there, but I think that this page here can be really helpful, help them narrow it down, so choose a broader topic like website, social media, and they can choose the type of source that they're working with. And always keep in mind that this content comes directly from our APA style experts. So of course, you're getting the best APA style content that's out there. So let me just select this journal article, since of course, a very common type of source that's used. So here you can see the reference form that is associated with this type of source or journal article. And it's going to walk them through, and I love how it kind of divides up, chunks up each section of the reference. So they're going to take it one step at a time. We've got our authorship, and also you can see these question marks so that they'll get help along the way. So anytime you see these little question marks, if you click that, there's some really helpful guiding, very specific information, examples, so they will know exactly what should go in that box. But it's not going to do it for them. They still have to go through the process and learn and enter in the correct content from their source. So they'll complete the date section, the title. There is some more automated help along the way. These buttons here help them format the title here in sentence case, and then also the reverse here for formatting and title case for the source name. So help along the way, but it's still not going to complete everything for the student. So it's a very excellent learning experience. Okay, there's also a space for quotations. So they can save quotations directly here in this reference form. And then when they go to drop the reference citation in their paper later on, that quotation will be saved, and it makes it very easy for them to cite it in their paper. There's also a section for notes. And then down here at the bottom, you can see the tags that I mentioned just a bit ago. You can add those reference tags here directly in the form and save them there. Then once you have everything filled out, you'll just click add to my references, and it will do its magic and put that into your my references. Okay, so that's kind of a quick run through of the create option. Maybe a bit more time consuming than the other options, but like I said, it really is, I think, the best learning experience for the students. And then we have our import option, which uses what's called an RIS file, which just is a type of file that exchanges citation data between different platforms. So your students were doing research, say in a database, or if they had some references saved in a reference manager like Mendeley or RefWorks or Zotero, they can import their references from those sources and pull them here into Academic Writer, and they can be added to your My References. So how this works, you would just say if you were using an EBSCOhost database, from EBSCOhost, you would export those references that you plan to import into Academic Writer, always just making sure to choose that RIS option. And then you'll come here to Academic Writer and choose those files that you just exported and submit them here, and they will import. And of course, again, Academic Writer will do its magic and pull those references in and add them into your My References account. But just a bit of a disclaimer, it's not going to, of course, do all of the work for the student. It will pull in exactly what the data is that is in that RIS file, so it's not going to automatically change or make edits to it. So that is on the student. So they have that authority, of course, as author. So just things to look out for would be missing information, if there was a section of the reference that was blank, first and middle name, sometimes they get squished together. and also incorrect capitalization. And even if it's coming from a very reputable database, things happen. Publishers sometimes have very interesting requirements for their, even in the APA style, sometimes you'll see the title like in all caps or something like that. So we always just make sure to tell the students to, if you're importing, to double, triple check for any APA errors. Okay, and then last we have our search option. So this might be the quickest, but really only going to apply if you know that you are doing your research in APA PsycInfo. So this database, of course, maintained by APA. This here does not give you full access, so it's not discovery access to APA PsycInfo, but it does give you access to the references. So if you found an article that you know it's in APA PsycInfo, you can do a quick search here of the author or the title, and you can find that article. I'll just search by a quick keyword here to show you. And we have the reference here, since of course it's already been formatted in APA style by APA, and then you can very quickly add that into your My References. So kind of just a convenience if you know that you use PsycInfo to find a resource. Okay, I feel like I kind of blabbed on a bit about references there for a minute, but there's just a lot to cover with references. And I know instructors, you get a lot of questions and confusion and emotions attached to creating references. So I do want to hand it over now with a question to Dr. Sullivan. So have you seen changes to your students' work since they've started using the Reference Center? And also kind of, if you could talk about how it's kind of affected your teaching time.
I've found that once I let them know, I can usually tell whether or not they've used Academic Writer to set up their references. And they start finding things out, like it automatically alphabetizes a reference list for you. It's easy to import a reference into a paper that they're working on. Things have gotten much clearer with respect to what they've been doing in class. In fact, when a student comes to the end of the 2 courses, it's usually the reference function that they find the most useful, but also one that they thought, what am I going to do without it with my papers in the future? So they get used to it, they enjoy it, and it cuts down my time immensely in terms of grading. I look at the reference list to make sure that things are in APA, appropriate APA format. And probably 90% of the time, I have no problems with what they have entered in if they've used the reference function appropriately. It's also nice, since a lot of them are using more and more web-based types of sources, including things like podcasts, because there are academic podcasts. I did a podcast for Psych Sessions a year or so ago, and I wanted to put it on my Vita, and I'm old, folks, so I wasn't sure how to put together a reference, and I went right into Academic Writer and found how to do a podcast, and it helps the students realize that even if you're supposedly an expert in APA style because you're a professor, you still have to look things up because things are constantly changing. And that's one of the features I really appreciate about this, is once they discover and I demonstrate, here's the way you cite things in a paper, how to put together a reference, it just goes so much more smoothly than in the past. I don't have as many errors, and I don't spend as much time grading on that aspect of APA style.
Great. That is so great to hear. I'm really glad it's been working out for you and your class. All right. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go over to the Writing Center. Since these webinars always, I just can't believe I checked the time and it just flies so fast. But yeah, I want to make sure that we can get into some of the features in the Writing Center, since this is where you can actually write, format, compose your papers, and then also, of course, add your references onto your papers. So I'm going to go through, let's actually first just look at my papers list. So this is just a list of all of the papers that I have already created that I've been working on, so I can see them all here in one place. And you can also just see some data related to each paper, the owner, the role. We have a whole collaboration feature that's available that I'll show you in just a bit. It allows students to work on a group paper or group project together and collaborate within that paper. But just wanted to show you here, you can access all of your papers in one place in one list. And then also up here in this file cabinet is where you can quickly jump to your papers. If you click on My Papers, this is also where you can quickly jump to your references list. So think of it, yeah, like your file cabinet, this is where your work is. But let me go back over this that keeps popping up here is a tour of the features, and this walks you through how to create a new paper. So this is just a feature that helps students get oriented with the platform here. But I will just exit out of that. And let's walk through the steps of creating a brand new paper. This is just that tour that is continuing to pop up. And that tour is available up here in this top right corner. Okay, so the first thing that students will need to do here is select a paper type, or as an instructor, you also have the ability to assign out a particular type of paper. So through your LMS, you could assign out a multi-experiment paper, and then it will let you know that students used Academic Writer to complete that paper type. So they would click through the link in Canvas or Blackboard, and then it would bring them here into the Writing Center, and it will let you know as an instructor that they did use Academic Writer to format and complete their paper. But here we have all of these different types of templates, so types of papers. There's also a sample paper associated with each paper type, each template. All these paper types are described in the publication manual, but you'll also see a brief description, and of course you can access that sample paper. And we have these templates. The main thing that helps set up the paper with these templates is the heading levels. So you'll see if that paper type has specific heading levels, those will be pre-formatted. And then you will also see some specific guiding information for that specific paper type. There's also the basic paper, which is our most commonly used template here, which is going to be actually blank. So if students aren't, worried about using specific heading levels or a template yet, this basic paper will be compatible with any type of APA style paper. So there's the basic paper. We have a meta-analysis, theoretical, empirical. I'm going to select this multi-experiment to walk you through the process here, just a few steps to start a brand new paper. So first off, it's asking me how I plan to use the paper. So there's two options, the student assignment and the professional manuscript. The student assignment is just a bit different since the student paper would not require a running head, an author note, abstract, or keywords automatically, but these can be added back in. So if you had chosen the student assignment, but then wanted to add an abstract or author note, you can add those back in. You're not going to be locked into that. And then the professional manuscript would automatically include a running head, author note, abstract, and keywords. So I'm going to choose the student assignment and hit continue. From here, you just need a paper title. Exit that. So you would just put in your paper title. This can always be edited. So if you just want to put a placeholder title, that's cool. And then you can also immediately start adding references to the paper, which is something I like to do just to make sure to get those references on right away. Or you can just click start writing and it's going to take you right into the reference center. Or I'm sorry, the writing center. I was looking at the word reference. So here you can see those are the steps that I need to just create a brand new paper. So that's it. I've already got the framework of my paper kind of preset for me, which is super helpful. I've got my heading levels, my study one, method, results, discussion, and there's also a brief description of what would go in each of those sections. Once I click there, that goes away and I can start typing. And then all of that content that you see here, that guiding information that's specific to this paper type, it lives up here in this related help in this little question mark in the top right. So it walks through each section of the paper and has that guiding information. There's also things like general writing advice, information on headings, and also over here, you will often find links out to the Learning Center content. So it's just going to take you even more content. So here you can click out to the heading levels quick guide. So if you want to learn even more, you can go directly to that quick guide. Okay, let me X out of this. So I have my heading levels pre-formatted here, but if I need to make edits or add new headings, there is a feature for doing that. So if I highlight and come over here to the heading dropdown, and I love this because it's straight out of the publication manual, and all I have to do is select the level, and it's going to update all of the punctuation, whether it's bold, all of the formatting for that heading level. So I think all of those little kind of automated formatting features that we see here really just help maybe even just save up a second or two at a time here and there. But I know with busy students, those seconds really do add up and help save some time so that they can really focus on the quality of their writing, the excellent research and content that they're focusing on, instead of spending too much time referring back and forth with their publication manual. It's all here in one place. So that's how you set up the framework of your paper with your heading level. Over here on the left side, you can see your main navigation. So we have our research lab book. These are kind of our pre-writing resources. So developing the research idea, planning research. There's an annotated bibliography tool there. Writing, which is of course where you actually write the body of the paper. There's a title page form. So you don't have to worry about all of the formatting with the title page. You can put your content directly here into the form and then save it, and it will automatically show up in your preview. And then also, let's see, we have check tools available, and these are really helpful for students to help avoid having those APA style errors and mistakes in their papers, they can run all of these mini reports on their paper. So checking things like their writing, their headings order, so making sure all of their headings are in order, unbalanced headings. They can do a quick report on the references, matching the references citations, and then of course tables and figures as well. And then there's a mini report on the word count also. So lots of tools here for students to check their work so that they are avoiding common APA style errors as they are working on their paper. I'm going to quickly just jump over to another paper that has just a little bit more content, so I can show you a couple more features. I know we're already getting down pretty tight on time, but let me just show you real quickly down below the paper body. This is where you add your additional elements, so like your references. You can add references down here below, and it will show up in this list. So these are all of the references I've added to this paper. And you can also see this green cited lets me know which references have already been cited in a paper, in this paper. So if I want to add a new reference, all I have to do is click add reference. And then I can go through my full references list and select the reference that I want to add, and then just click add to paper, and now it's going to show up there on my paper's reference list. And you can always see those. If you come here and click on preview, you can see everything in your paper. You can see the title page. You can see how everything's formatted. So here's my title page, and I can flip all the way back through to my references. So once I add those references, they're going to show up here formatted with the hanging indents. Everything's alphabetical in order there. And then, of course, you can also, once you add those references, add the in-text citations. So once you add it to your paper, then you can click into your paper and you can select the reference you want to cite and just click cite. It's going to ask a bit of information, so parenthetical or narrative, is it a quotation? And then you'll just hit submit, and it's going to create that in-text citation for you, which I lost track of where it was. Here it is. So it just drops it right into your paper, formatted in APA style. And then, of course, we have that collaboration that I mentioned is up here, which just allows you to add multiple users onto one paper and assign out sections. So there's really so much to talk about with the Writing Center, so many different tools, but really helps you as an instructor to help kind of steer too much of the focus on the kind of technical formatting, since there are a lot of features that have been automated, like the heading levels, all of the margins, title page. So those tools are in place to help the student really set up the framework of the paper so they can really then focus, of course, on the content and the quality of the writing. So I'm sure that there's many features that I just didn't get to today, but I do want to make sure I have time now to talk to Dr. Sullivan again. So if you could just talk a little bit about a few of your favorite features in the Writing Center, kind of what do you see as the biggest benefit for students using Academic Writer to compose their papers?
Okay, I like the fact that they can type things in with the main headings. I tend to have them use every single paper or writing assignment they do for me. We do things called journal article critiques, and we do what I call APA summary, teaching them to write a summary. Those are in the blank template. But when they write their research proposals or manuscripts, we use the empirical template and we use the professional version, says I want an abstract, etc. But they can go to preview after they type things in and see, does it look like it is appropriately typed in APA format? But also with the example you've got up here with our little red lines and squiggle and things. So if you, yeah, there we go. They could go over, it is a grammar check, spell check, stylistic check, and it will give you suggestions on how to write better and do things more appropriately. I make the joke that my absolute favorite one that I was guilty of was I had a split infinitive, and the response was, "This, some people find this offensive. You may consider rewriting this." And that was the message that came off Academic Writer. You can use it with the simplest types of assignments to very complex assignments. And that's kind of how I scaffold my course, is start with basic summaries and then build up to a research proposal, to finally they conduct their own research and they write up a completed manuscript. All along, they can check their heading levels. If you go to I love the check function. In particular, the newest one, which is Check My Writing, tells them at what level they're writing in terms of grade level. It gives you an idea of the complexity of your sentences, the variety of your sentences, how many cliches you've used, because that's what drives me crazy is when they use cliches. And you can see what has been repeated over and over again. And I make them collaborate on everything with me. So I can go in, I can make comments on what they've written. It's like a track comment function in Word. If I want to do something else, they want a little bit more, you can export the paper. The paper can be exported either as a Word document or a PDF document. And they can also email you a copy of their paper as a Word or PDF file if you want them to do that. So there's a lot of flexibility in how you can use this platform to have your students. I've noticed our students' writing gets better, and I'm not spending as much time on what I call kind of the outline format things. I'm spending more time on helping them with writing like a scientist. And of course, I love the reference function.
Oh, yes. Oh, wow. Thank you so much for sharing your feedback and your experience. It really is valuable to hear about this tool actually being used in instruction and within your class. So thank you so much for being here, and even just really just training on some of the topics and features that I didn't get to. So thank you so much for covering those and pointing those out. I know we're like so short on time. I think we do have a few minutes. If there are any questions that we can address to the group, I don't know, Ryan, if you have any questions you'd like to bring up, or anyone that's been in the chat. But thank you so much, Dr. Sullivan, for providing that really valuable information.
Yeah, thank you both. It was a very good conversation. I think there are some questions in Q&A. It looks like there are some plans to be answered live. So I don't know if Lindsay wanted to handle that now, or.
Sure, yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsay Hinman. I'm the Director of Workflow Products here at APA Publishing. One of the questions that has come through quite a bit, and I wanted to make sure that we addressed it because I know it's on a lot of people's minds, is the cost. So the cost for Academic Writer does depend on the duration of your course and kind of how your institution is set up. Short answer is that for a semester, the highest that cost will be for the student is around $25 for the semester. But as I said, depending on how your institution is set up, if you have inclusive access, things like that, that cost could go down. So that would definitely be part of our conversation with you if you are interested in incorporating Academic Writer into your course. And you as the instructor would have access. So that cost that I referenced was would be the student access. So ultimately, we want to make sure that we're, pricing this fairly and that we're really just getting it into the hands of instructors and students because we obviously think it's a great product. So thank you all for submitting your questions on that. And I think we had sent the link both in the chat and in the Q&A, but if you're interested in learning more and want a free trial, Ryan, you may be providing more information on that, but you can go ahead and sign up for that and we can talk in further detail.
Yeah, absolutely. A reminder, this webinar is recorded, so be on the lookout for an email to everyone containing the webinar recording. There will be a link for trial access as well and some other resources, so definitely be on the lookout for that. Yeah, and this slide right here has some information so you can plug in the link that we dropped in the chat and the QA. And I think that was kind of the main questions that were remaining, just about price. So want to be respectful of everyone's time. So yeah, this is a great slide for some resources. Our socials are here. If you want to follow along for some resources and content that get dropped pretty frequently. And again, the trial link. All this information will be emailed to everyone. So, but yeah, thank you everyone again for a great webinar, and be on the lookout for some resources.